Good evening. The time is 6 p.m. I call this meeting of the Waxahachie Independent School District to order. Let the record show that all 7 of our trustees are in attendance this evening. This meeting has been duly called and posted in accordance to Texas Open Meetings Act, Government Code Chapter 551. At this time, I'm going to ask Mr. Lee Aubenshine to lead us in our pledges, as well as, well, let's do this, I'm sorry. Mr. Fox is going to lead us in our invocation, followed by Mr. Aubenshine in our pledges. Mr. Fox.
Thank you. Dear Lord, thank you so much for this beautiful day you've given us. Thank you for the lives that you've given each one of us. Thank you for helping us to be here and make decisions for WISD. Thank you for giving us the honor to be on this board. Thank you for giving us the honor to be parents and supporters and people in this room that care about WISD. Please bless each one, each family. I thank you, God, for giving us life, and I ask you to be with us each day. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Will everyone please rise and face our flags? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
Thank you, Mr. Fox, Mr. Aubenshine. At this time, we'll move into our recognitions for this evening. I'll turn the podium over to Ms. Bridges. Ms. Bridges.
Good evening, board.
Good evening.
I'm glad we have a packed house tonight to recognize these wonderful folks that we have. I'm going to ask the Imagine girls to come in first. Come on in, girls. The Imagine girls, and Imagine stands for I'm Made as Greatness Intended, No Excuses. They became a part of Howard Junior High's campus in the fall of 2014. And the mission of Imagine is to undertake actions that nurture and build positive self-image, accountability for actions both inside and outside of the classroom, and a proactive attitude toward community service needs within our surrounding community and beyond. In order to meet this mission, the young ladies of Imagine Waxahachie have participated in Waxahachie's Homecoming Parade, the Making Strides Breast Cancer Walk, restocked the food pantry at Waxahachie Care, participated in MS Walks, and hosted Howard Junior High's very own MS Walkout fundraiser. Recently, the girls have had the pleasure of assisting with Felty and Turner's Fall Festivals, the YMCA Santa Run, and Career Night at Finley. When over 40 members of the Imagine Girls are not involved in community service events, they meet regularly to discuss and foster positive social interactions with teachers, peers, and adults. And you may also find them creating vision boards, painting with a twist with Ms. Schenk, or at the movie theater as a group. Last year, Imagine's STEP team was implemented to increase student involvement on campus. No matter what setting you find them in, Imagine's members are learning to be an asset to their community by standing on their motto. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. Thank you for being here, girls. Thank you for being here, girls.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely.
Ms. Bridges, as they're falling out right now, we do have live streaming going on.
We
at our meetings
do.
now.
Yes,
You wanna
sir.
Mention that just briefly to everybody.
Absolutely. We are so excited. Our amazing technology team has set us up so that we can live stream every school board meeting. So we have our own YouTube channel that we can stream live on. We are sending out that link every board meeting day so people can follow us. So because we have limited space in this room, as you can tell.
Not everybody can make it. Best place to get
Exactly.
the information.
Absolutely.
So, and thank Jeff Robinson and his entire team.
Yes.
I know they're making a lot of technological changes to the boardroom and how we do things, and working really hard. And Jeff, we just appreciate you and your entire staff.
Thank you, Dr. Glenn. Appreciate your vision, and Stephen and David are doing a great job.
Yep.
See them in back.
Yep.
Thanks,
They're
guys.
awesome. Well, the next person was supposed to come to our February meeting, but she had a basketball playoff game. So we are so excited to recognize Coach Leslie Prevey. Where did she go? There you are. She is our head girls basketball coach, and she picked up her 500th win this season. This great accomplishment was achieved on January 30th against Midlothian. The Lady Indians won that game 63-56 and clinched their ticket to the playoffs. Coach Prevey has been the leader of the Lady Indians for 22 years. So she's won now over 500 games. She has taken the Lady Indians to 2 state championships. They won in 2006 and were the runner-up in 2000. She was named the 2005-2006 Coach of the Year for 4A and 5A. It is an honor to recognize Coach Prevey for this great accomplishment. Thank you, Coach Prevey. Congratulations. We are also very excited to have a teen school board member with us tonight. You want to come on up? So this is Sharika Livingston. She is one of our senior teen school board members. So she has been on teen school board for 3 years, played 4 years of varsity softball, 3 years of advanced theater, 4 years of student council, 3 years as softball captain, 2 years of FCA, 4 years as youth department leader at Emmanuel's Upper Room Church of God in Christ, 2 years of varsity track, 1 year of varsity basketball, and 4 years as a Special Olympics volunteer and coach. So she is not very busy at all. So we love having Sharika as one of our teen school board members. She always brings joy to our meetings, and thank you so much for being here tonight. We appreciate you. And board, finally, I would like to invite Findlay Junior High Principal Adon Casas up to give a special presentation.
Dr. Glenn, school board, cabinet, and everybody else. Good evening, everybody. I received a phone call a couple weeks ago, and they said we want to honor one of your students or one of your teachers as Teacher of the Month. And I said, well, can I nominate 6 or 7 because we have so many good ones at Findlay, right? And they were like, no, you have to choose one. So I said, all right. So I got my little administrative team together, and we started going through the list, and one teacher stood out. She's been at Findlay for 6 years, and she's taught 7th and 8th grade science, 7th grade science and 6th and 8th grade science. So she's flexible. She gets our kids. She knows our kids. She has a great relationships with them and with the administrative staff. Her goals are to be an administrator. So we started to push her. We're expanding her talents. She helps with discipline. She helps with organizing things. And she'll always tell me, Mr. Costas, I need to be more organized than you. You just make it happen, and I've got to be organized. So we kind of laugh about that, but she's very organized, and she has a bright future, not only at Findlay, but wherever her path may take her, she continues in her educational goals and setting and everything else. So Brittany Griffith, if you'd come up here, we'd like to. Working at Findlay's pretty tough, as you can tell. We roughed her up. We roughed her up a little bit. So.
Thank you so much, board.
Thank you, Ms. Bridges.
All right, thank you, Ms. Bridges. Moving forward, down to number 4 is our informational report. Wellness Center presented by Ms. Bousquet. Ms. Bousquet?
Am I good? Okay. All right, well, good evening, board. Thank you for allowing me to come speak to you tonight. I appreciate your time and your attention. I know you have lots to do, but I appreciate that you're going to give me a few minutes tonight. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the prospect of creating a wellness fitness center for our employees in Waxahachie ISD. We feel like it's a great idea. I know it's something that we have talked about in Waxahachie ISD for years and years and years, and we just have not ever done it. It's something that I hope we can do really soon. Sorry, I'm learning this.
That's all we got.
Okay. Can I do this with my finger? No?
Yes, ma'am.
Just hit it like that? Okay. Whoops, I think I did it. No, I didn't. Okay. As you can see by the slide, on-site workout facilities provide a much-needed outlet for stress, a culture of wellness, and a sense of teamwork and camaraderie among employees. So it's just a place where people can go, they can be together, they can have a common goal, they can do things to make themselves feel better, feel more healthy, and do that together to just foster relationships and positive relationships. Oh, I keep saying it, I think I'll hit it. Okay. That sounds really good, doesn't it, to have a place like that? But what does that really mean? Well, I'm going to give you the top 10 reasons why WICD needs an employee wellness center, or fitness center. I keep saying wellness. Now, David Letterman is not coming. And I've been told by all 6 of my children that I am not funny in no uncertain terms. So, do not expect to laugh a lot. But here we go with the top 10 reasons. We have the space. We need to use it. There's a room in the 9th grade center that is on the east side of the building, on that part that's close to the ag area, the ag facility there where they have the classrooms. We have an outside entrance that employees can badge into. They can use that room to work out. There's a classroom just up the hall we can use for exercise classes. We can hold those there. It's a great area. It's not going to be used anymore because Global will be there. They won't need it. It's currently being used as a weight room for the 9th grade and for the athletes, but it won't be necessary next year when the new high school opens. So let's use that space. The 9th reason, exercise leads to more time spent in deep REM sleep. I can't see my notes. The more sleep you get, the more time you spend in REM sleep, the better your brain works. I'm sorry.
No, this is, yeah, and I can explain. This is our first time,
Sorry,
Miss
I'm
Blaylock.
sorry.
Yeah, this is a brand new technology, so I appreciate Miss Bouquet trying to use it out. So you want to minimize it to see your notes?
Okay,
There
that's
you go.
perfect.
Right.
Thank you. Okay. Studies even show that competitive athletes have better sleep patterns than those that aren't competitive athletes. So because they exercise all the time, they're very regularly working out, they sleep better than the rest of us. So and deep sleep actually increases our ability to fend off stress and illness. So there you go. Now I'm going to have to scroll up. Okay, can I just go down?
Yes, ma'am. You're on this slide.
Okay,
Right there.
okay. Y'all, I'm not only not funny, I'm technology challenged. Okay, exercise increases brain power. When we exercise, we actually release a hormone that improves our cognitive function. And I know you've heard that your whole life. I'm not the first ones to tell you that. A WIC fitness center will increase retention and recruitment of quality employees. When you feel better physically and mentally, you perform better professionally. So you're going to be happier in your job. So you're going to want to stay where you are. And those are the employees we're going to want to keep. Convenient, accessible exercise opportunities help to promote job satisfaction. We want happy employees. We want content employees. They're the ones that are going to be happier in their jobs, and they're going to do a better job. And they're going to better represent to our children and to our students the kind of people that we want them to become. So that's always a good idea. A WISD fitness center will help build a spirit of teamwork as employees work toward a common goal. Like I said earlier, if we're working together to try to become healthy, we're going to have more of a spirit of teamwork to try to work together to help maybe a problem child get over a behavior issue, or a student who's really struggling in the classroom to try to get over a learning problem. So we're all going to want to work together better the more we work together in any area. Okay? Number 4, regular exercise will help reduce employee health care costs. The more we work out, the healthier we are, the less we're going to get sick. We're not going to have to go see those pesky doctors who like to charge us lots of money. Okay? And if we're not paying them lots of money, then we're saving money. So the healthier we are, the better off we are. We're not going to the doctor. Healthier employees are absent less. Another bottom line benefit for everybody. We're not having to pay subs as a district for sick employees that are out all the time. Number 2, regular exercise is a major stress reducer, producing better functioning, more contented employees. I don't have to tell anybody in this room that education is a highly stressful job. Most professions are to a certain degree in certain areas, but education these days is getting more and more stressful. More and more is being asked of our teachers by the state. More and more is being required of them in the classroom, and this produces a lot of stress. The more you exercise, the more outlets you have to relieve that stress. The better job you're going to do in the classroom, the more contented you're going to be, the less you're going to bottle that stress up inside of you, because it's going to come out one way or another. It's much better for it to come out in a workout facility instead of a classroom. Okay? Are y'all ready for the number 1 reason? Does anybody know? I bet you would know if you thought about it. Our kids. They're the number 1 reason that we need a workout facility. They're the ones who are going to be the number 1 benefactors from healthy, happy teachers, educational staff, custodians, nurses, they're the ones who are going to benefit from people that are working out, healthy, feeling good, able to do that with their schedule because there's a convenient place there for them to run and work out and get that done, and then they get to go home to their families and spend time with them. So these are the top 10 reasons that we feel like we need a workout facility in WISD. And I believe Mr. Calden and maybe Mr. Mielek have some information about some things we might need to make this room happen.
Thank you. So originally we talked about in this room putting 3 elliptical machines, 3 stationary bikes, and 3 treadmills. Really in this room we're going for more static, machine-oriented fitness equipment, so no free weights. We're not looking for that 7 p.m. hero that's trying to bench press 400 by themselves and get themselves in trouble. But we were looking at within the space putting in some equipment that could be generally used by anyone of any fitness level. And then, as Nurse Bousquet had mentioned, there is a room that's close by that if it is not going to be used programmatically by Global High School, we would like to consider an exercise room in there. And at that point, you're talking maybe some yoga balls and yoga mats, depending on the class that would be offered. Don't think we're talking a full spin class at this point with bikes, but we'll let interest kind of determine that as we go forward.
Sure, and correct me if I'm wrong, you presented this to the SHAC committee already?
We have not presented it to the presentation to the SHAC committee, but they know this is something that we're working on. It's been a vision for a long time. I don't think it'll be any problem. I think they'll be all for it if you're worried about that.
And the room that Nurse Bousquet is talking about and that Mr. Calden referenced actually has outdoor access, so you can walk straight in from the outside into the building. So it really makes a lot of sense. I think it could be used in collaboration with the students at Global High School. So if they wanted to use it, absolutely, that would be a possibility as well. And it really gives us kind of a starting point for a program that we really feel like we can grow. I know that even Mr. Fox has mentioned from time to time a room located below Lumpkins, which was never finished out. This is a low-cost option to integrate the program into our district for teachers beginning with the 18-19 school year at a really low price point. So we'd like to bring it back at a future meeting for board consideration.
That's our end goal. This is a good way to get started, to get people going and we're working on a whole wellness program, and we're trying to get our employees more exercise minded. So this is a good way to get started.
And we've had quite a few employees ask about it as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of interest out there, a whole lot of interest. Does anybody have any questions that I can answer for them before I sit down?
Questions for Ms. Bousquet?
All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Bousquet.
Do you want me to do that?
Number 5, open forum. Looks like we have a handful of people that have signed to speak. As these people come up, I'll remind the board that we're not allowed to make comment or answer any questions due to the Texas Open Meetings Act. The first person that I have on the list is Ms. Sylvia Colson. Ms. Colson, if you'll make your way to the podium. Ms. Colson, if you'll state your name and address for the record, you will have 5 minutes to address the board. I will notify you when you have 1 minute left.
Great.
Ms. Colson.
Thank you so much. I'm a 27-year volunteer with the WISD, for those of you that don't know. I've done many things with this district. Yes, I'm Sylvia Colson. I live at 1315 Dixie Lane in Waxahachie. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Basically, I've been a classroom volunteer, PTO president, PTO secretary, volunteer coordinator, health advisory committee, district advisory committee, school advisory committee. I even for several years actually was the coach for the UIL number sense team at the junior high because none of the teachers wanted to do it. They would have gotten a stipend. I did it for nothing. I love the kids of this district. I love the teachers of this district. I just want to be real clear about that. But I have some questions and I have some comments. One of the first questions is a question that's actually come to me by several different people, and that is, why did we build a $100+ million high school miles from most of our students when there was so much property right at the current high school, close to most of our students? Why didn't we choose to build up and out there? Well, that's a done deal. We're past that. I question that, but we're past that. So now we are emptying out the high school. We're emptying out the 9th grade center. And so I understand we had room for 1,400 students at the high school. We have room for 650 students at the 9th grade center. And so I wonder now, why don't our plans maximize that available space to avoid the request for major construction here before we're even in the new high school? I was looking back at the 2015 bond that was proposed and passed for that high school, and quoting from that bond language, as I'm looking at it, says the new high school will provide capacity at all grade levels through the repurposing of campuses. So that to me is saying, vote for this and we'll have room for all our kids because we're going to repurpose in that way. And then I heard we want a new bond, but there's no tax increase. And when I heard that, I felt a little bit like Popeye when Mr. Wimpy says to him, "I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today." The WISD website reports that our principal and interest totals almost $500 million in our district, Waxahachie ISD, to pay off our principal and interest. It's going to take almost $500 million. And this is due to be paid off in 2045. That's 27 years from now. We owe money for 27 years and we're asking to owe more. My school taxes this year are 74% of my total taxes. It's a big percentage of my total taxes. My school taxes are up to 112% of what they were last year. And you say, well, that's just a few $100s for you. But I think about that, that's extra money. And if I'm paying a few $100s for my home, which really isn't that much, it's not a very fancy house. There are much, much nicer houses in Waxahachie. I'm thinking there's bound to be a lot of extra money over this district as other people are paying more in their taxes. So with that extra money, I propose that we save up to pay for a school when it's actually needed. And that's not all. My appraisal went up so much that I didn't get all the taxes this year. Even if my appraisal doesn't go up this next year, I'll still be paying more school taxes next year. And I'm feeling pretty confident my appraisal will go up. So my income is going down. My tax money that I'm paying overall is going up. And it's a challenge to me financially, and I would like to challenge this district. I've asked a lot of people, how do we build schools before school bonds? How do we do it? And everybody answers me with our taxes. We didn't need school bonds. We saved up our money. We had our taxes. We saved up our money. I'm deeply concerned for the district I know and love. We need to stop and reevaluate and not plunge ourselves deeper into debt.
1 minute.
Thank you. I'm done.
Thank you, Ms. Colson.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Next to the podium is Ms. Shannon Moyer. Ms. Moyers, if you'd state your name and address for the record, please. Same to you, Ms. Moyers. You have 5 minutes. I'll let you know when you have 1 minute left.
Okay. Shannon Moyers in 1622 Wildflower, Waxahachie. Good evening. I'm glad to see the school security is on the agenda tonight. It should be one of our top priorities, if not our top priority. I'm thankful to see the possibility of a proposal for a school marshal program. And I would hope that the board trustees would consider a stipend for those administrators and teachers willing to assume the responsibility of ensuring the safety of our most precious possessions, our children. I know that there had been a stipend previously for a certain group of coaches in the amount of $16,000 a year, $10,000 for admin on duty and $6,000 for coaching. I would hope that the board would consider comparable stipends for anyone willing to assume the responsibility of our children's safety. I think if we could curtail some of the unnecessary spending, this stipend could be included on the next budget. As far as the rezoning and the bond, we aren't using our existing facilities to their full capacity. To kind of reiterate what Ms. Colson said, in the 2015 bond, we were promised a 10-year plan that we would have the new high school and repurposed facilities to deal with growth at all levels, including the elementary, and that hasn't happened. There are different ways to deal with the growth at the elementary level without building another school. What about utilizing the 9th grade academy instead of utilizing it for global, which, don't get me wrong, I'm a huge proponent for global. But with the transfer fee that was revoked at summer but was started in October 2016, global took a hard hit to their freshman class. There weren't very many transfers at all. So that freshman class was the smallest that it's been in a very long time. It doesn't fit into the 400 seats in Wildman building right now. So why not use the 9th grade center as an elementary where the capacity is more needed? You would add an additional 250 seats right there. And that's another thing. I mean, the trustees have before made some hasty decisions, and I think that transfer fee is kind of what I'm talking about on one of those. They didn't think about maybe the 41, 42 district status and the wealth re-equalization, the Robin Hood Act and whatnot, how that would affect. That actually global brings in more money that's what's spent on them, and there's a very good website on TEA, the PEMS, that you can look and see how much we spend on each of the students in the district, that I would highly suggest some trustees maybe going on there and looking to get that information to the questions that they had. Another way that we could also do it, honestly, if you didn't move global from Wildman, you could also, what about utilizing Findlay as an elementary and just using Coleman and Howard Junior High as the new junior highs? You would still have enough capacity at the junior high level. Findlay is on the side of the highway that you need it, in the north side, and there are streets that now connect it directly to Findlay to the North Grove subdivision without having to get on the main streets. And one of the main concerns I've heard from a lot of people is transportation. We have a brand new high school out there and everybody's eligible to be bused. How are we doing it? Was that thought of? So now with the rezoning, you got a lot more kids that are going to be bused. How are we going to do it? I think that if any of that information was given to the public, maybe that we would have more confidence in some of the plans that are being laid forth for us to decide on. But without that information, it's very hard for us to make those decisions, because and honestly, a lot of people don't want to put their second graders on the bus at 6:30 in the morning. I know I didn't at the time. On the bond, the issuance, the verbiage of the bond ballot clearly states the issuance of 23 million bonds by the Waxahachie Independent School District for one new elementary school and levying the tax and payment thereof. While we've been told that there won't be an increase, there's no guarantee of that. When those payments come due, we can actually see an increase in the following years. And the 2017 bond, I don't want people to think, oh, it was against the kids, or we didn't want what's best for the kids. I think everybody in here wants what's best for the kids, including myself. But we also don't want to leave them in more debt. It's like Ms. Polson said, 27 years. We're in $500 million worth of debt, $446 million according to the Texas Comptroller. We have to do better. And I think there's different ways of doing that, and there's no guarantee that our taxes won't be increased. And we have to leave them something to work with at this point. And basically we need tax relief. I mean, some people, I know it doesn't seem much, a couple $100s, but that's the difference between paying their electric and not paying their electric. Not everyone in Waxahachie is wealthy. And I think there's a tendency to forget that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Moyers. Ms. Kim Kriegel, you can make your way to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Same to you, Ms. Kriegel. You'll have 5 minutes. I will let you know when you have 1 minute remaining.
I won't need it, thank you. My name is Kim Kriegel. I live at 509 Santa Fe Trail, Waxahachie, Texas. And I'm here again tonight to talk about safety. There are a lot of safety concerns with the recent shooting. I've been concerned about safety since Columbine. But anyway, what I think would help the people, the citizens, in our district that we are currently doing, and then the safeguards in place for the new high school. I believe if you would publish that, then that way that they would see, the public would see that we are on top of the game and that we're prepared. I know that there have been several safety concerns were addressed while I was on the school board, and I'm very proud of those things, like the entrances at all the elementary schools and the high school. That's fantastic. But I think if the public knew you know, the issue, the steps that we're taking, I think that would really help with the safety concerns, especially at the new high school. I had someone the other day say, how on earth are you going to make that new high school safe with all of the doors, all of the entrances, and as huge as it is? She said, you have an army? Will they have an army? And I'm like, no, I don't believe so. But if y'all would just do, I'm not saying tip off any secrets you have, but if you would just put forth, make a list, I think that would help the people. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Kriegel. Next to the podium is Mr. Mike Lee. Mr. Lee, if you'd state your name and address for the record. You will also have 5 minutes. I will let you know when you have 1 minute remaining, Mr. Lee.
Good evening. My name is Mike Lee. I live at 245 Saddlebrook Lane at the Mustang Creek subdivision. Tonight I want to just kind of give you an idea where I'm coming from when it comes to security. I grew up on the south side of St. Louis, Missouri. And if anybody here knows about St. Louis, Missouri, and especially the south side, it's a pretty rough area. And I grew up in a very rough area and eventually made my way to Texas. Started working construction. And somewhere around 9/11, after that happened, it changed my heart and it changed the way that I looked at the world. And I knew at that point that there was a clear and present evil. And that evil exists everywhere. And it was apparent to me. And at that point, I gave my heart to Jesus Christ. And from that day forward, I lived a different life. My life has changed. I was a new man, and I had a new drive and a new direction. Soon after that, I became a children's pastor, or assistant children's pastor at a well-known church in Grapevine, and did that for many years, where I met my wife, a very smart, beautiful lady that I love very much. And she and I got married about a few years later. And after that, we decided to raise a family. I lived in a small house in Hurst, Texas. And eventually, we had our first child and outrooted the house quickly. So we moved out here to a smaller town to be close to her parents, and in turn to raise our children in a school district that was a good school district that we felt that our kids would have the best chance to learn and grow and develop. And I really like the moral values of the town and what the town is based on. And through that, like I said, there's that evil in this world, okay? We live in a corrupt world that will be that way until Jesus Christ comes back. It's inevitable. So to do that, there's certain things that we can and can't control. We can ask God to protect our children each day when they leave us. We put them in the care of the school district. And once we put them in the care of the school district, we intend on them to protect them at all costs and at all means. So when I see a lot of stuff going on and I hear, people talking about bond issues or taxes or rezoning or schools and stuff like that, I get it, okay? But my concern is if we have all that and we get one child hurt because we can't protect them, then what good have we done? And I feel, looking at the security that we have now in place, it's 1 or 2 layers of protection. Well, let's go 3 because God's one, right? So let's go 3 layers of protection. You got God, then you have a secure door, and then you have an unarmed security officer at the school. Now, you may also have another security officer that is armed that goes around all the districts. But once you walk in that door and you're buzzed in, whoever you are, you're not checked, identified, or anything really at that point, you have free reign of the school. I feel that there needs to be another layer of security where actually somebody is verifying who you are and restricting your access from our children. And after that, I think also there's other measures that can be in place that some people agree with and some people don't agree with. But I believe that you have to stop evil at all costs. And there's many ways of doing that. And I think we need to layer our defense against this evil And the first one.
1 minute.
The first one is making sure God is first in our schools. And then after that, we need to make sure that we in place those barriers to protect our children. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk.
Thank you, Mr. Lee, for your comments. Next to the podium is Miss Emily Price. Ms. Price, if you would state your name and address for the record. You two will have 5 minutes to address the board. I will let you know when you have 1 minute remaining. Ms. Price.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm Emily Price, 419 Bird Lane, here in Waxahachie. Many of you know me. Some of you I have taught. Some of you are parents of my children. I'm finishing up my 31st year of teaching, 27 of which have been with WISD. I even the other day realized, shockingly, that 40 of my 57 years I have been in WISD either as a student or a teacher, because I am part of the class of 79. So I thought, okay, well, I've been given a lot. But I am preparing to retire this summer and hope to then continue to do my dual credit at the new school next year, my dual credit geology through Navarro and Waxahachie. But as I began to prepare to retire, the buyback of your personal days was offered, and I thought, oh, that won't be a problem, because I can't stand, I do not like to be absent. It takes, you all know this as teachers, it's harder to set up for a sub than it is to teach yourself. So there has to be really something going on for me to not be there. So I thought that won't be a problem. Well, at first I did have a problem because I was in the hospital for several days last spring, and realized I could go back and cover that with FMLA, which my husband said to me, why didn't you use it? And I said, I've been teaching for 31 years. I don't know anything about FMLA. I don't know when we're supposed to use FMLA. Okay, so I'll go use FMLA. Well, then I look at the other 3 years are great, but there's this 1 year, 13-14, that has 14 absences. And I'm thinking, what is that? Well, when I look at it, it's when my mom passed away. And I was the primary caregiver out of my sisters. I live in town. And with a couple doctor's appointments, hospitalization, setting up hospice, and then actually being home on the day she passed away, took 5 of those days. And another tough thing, 4 weeks later, my stepmom passes away in Florida, my stepmom of 26 years. She passes away, actually 46 years, not 26, I'm not that young. She's been around since I'm 7, but I had to travel to Florida, and I planned very carefully to only miss 2 days. But I thought, surely that won't be held against me. But according to the rule, it says 95% of each of the last 5 years. I have 96.5 for the 5 years. But when you look at that one with the 14 days, I have 92% that year. And to me, I'm just hoping you will revisit this. I think tonight you are looking at changing some things, but I would hope I'm not told, I'm so glad you brought that to our attention so we can fix it for the future teachers. Sorry about you. We can't buy your days back. I'm just hoping after 27 years of commitment to WISD and our wonderful kids in my district that I adore, I will be looked upon fairly and helped be rewarded for those personal days I have stacked up over the last 27 years. I just appreciate your time and want you to seriously consider that for me and for anyone else that might get tripped up by that little word, each. And I don't know, possibly those days I spent with my mom may go under FMLA. But again, I haven't been coached clearly enough to know all the ins and outs of FMLA to help myself with that. So again, I appreciate you giving me the time to talk to you. I'm asking you to carefully review the policy, attempt to reword it to reward teachers, because it almost sounds like a faux
1 minute
positive policy. You're putting it out there. Look what we can do for you, because you've been there and you've been a great teacher and you've been in the classroom, but oh, that little word's in there to catch me. So please look at it closely, and I hope you have, thank you for your time, for your consideration, and I know you have the authority to correct it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Price, for your comments. Okay, trustees, moving down to number 2, our consent agenda. Our consent agenda consists of A through K. At this time, I will hold on, Mr. Colvin, because I think we're going to go out of order after this. So I just wanted you to know. So consent agenda items A through K, we will take those all together unless a trustee would like to remove one for consideration on its own. All right, motion by Mr. Alcier, second by Dr. Langley. Any discussion on consent agenda items A through K? All right, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Awesome. I just want to let Mr. Armstrong know that I love the rendering of the band uniforms we just approved. So can't wait to see them on your band members.
As you get ready for state marching contest.
That's right.
In 6A again.
Working on it.
I also want to bring to trustees' attention, at the end of public forum, we had several individuals speak on safety. Richard Gonzalez, who is currently a law enforcement teacher at Navarro College, formerly a federal marshal, actually put together a short narrative that he would like you to consider on school safety. He had planned to be here tonight, but he had an illness and he was unable to attend. So I told him that I would pass these out for your consideration.
All right, as Dr. Glenn is passing those out, we normally go in convene to recess, but at this time we're not. So if you don't want to stick around any longer, now's the time you can scoot, because we're going to keep moving forward and you won't bother us at all. Thank you, Dr. Glenn. Okay, at this time, if it's okay with the board, we're going to go out of order a little bit. And we're going to move to 3B, curriculum and academics, and we're going to go ahead and discuss the consideration and possible action on the 2018 rezoning plan and district zoning policies, FD, FDA, and FDB local. Ms. Blaylock.
Good evening, board. Thank you for your patience tonight as we try out our new presentation mode. We love the idea of getting to present to you, and we want to make sure that we are doing a fine job with that. So thank you for helping us get adjusted. Tonight, I have the honor of sharing with you, board, what has been a project of many in this room. Rezoning is something that we knew that we would face as we grew and as we opened a larger high school and we began to provide more school choice options, as was requested by us by our long-range planning committee from actually the last two committees that have been gathered. So tonight we want to look at what has become a recommendation to you by varied stakeholders. And so we know that this plan is expected to go into place as we start school in August of 2018. And so we are first just want to go through our timeline from the spring of 2017 when Templeton Demographics updated our long-range planning committee on their previous work and looking at growth trends for our community. We then, under your guidance, did secure Templeton Demographics to begin that process for rezoning for us. So this conversation really started in August with deeply assessing how our community was growing and what areas of town we're going to need to really have some relief applied. In October through December of 2017, Templeton began to develop drafts, brought them to our leadership team, and some of them instantly went by the wayside, but some began to percolate as very positive and good solid ideas for our community. We, at that same time, visited every campus in the district asking our staff to give us feedback on what is important to them in considering rezoning. And we have posters, we've covered this entire room with them, of all of their thoughts on the topics that I'm providing to you tonight. In addition, we gave feedback on those drafts and began to really hone in on 3 different plans. I believe the board has seen those. They are publicly posted on our website. If the public would like to see any of those plans that have been gone through the editing process. In January 2018, the rezoning drafts were presented to a parent committee. If you're a member of that parent committee and you're in the room, will you raise your hand, please? We had some people who gave a lot of time to us, our effort. Thank you. If you're on the district advisory team and you're here tonight, will you raise your hand in any capacity? Great. And if you feel like you have given us feedback on the rezoning in any form, will you raise your hand for us? Thank you. Thank you. So we have many stakeholders here in our room right now that have been a part of this. And that is something that we heard from our long-range planning committee and our community, is be transparent and let us share in that process. And I think that is what you'll see evidenced in this process. In February, we took, and to our district advisory team, who is an advisory committee for you, we took them the plans along with the parent committee and really got it down to one plan, Plan 2, that they felt very confident in. We took that plan to the first rezoning forum in February and got our initial first look from our community, as well as from face-to-face sessions at the rezoning forum, online feedback through emails. And as you can see, as that arrow loops back, we took that all of those concerns back to the district advisory committee and parent group, and prior to that, our demographer, to attempt to address as many of those concerns as we possibly could. So we just finished with our second rezoning forum the week before spring break, where we were able to have many discussions related to Plan 2, and from that came Plan 2B, which is now become, I think, the community favorite, if there is a favorite for rezoning. Plan 2B took Plan 2, but it addressed 3 great areas of concern that were brought to us. As you can see under remedies, Buffalo Ridge was concerned it needed to remain at Felty, with future phases being zoned to Clift. River Oaks would be zoned to Marvin to avoid crossing over 287, and the Arbors would remain at Shackelford. And so to look a little bit closer at Plan 2B, as you can see, the red lines are the previous area. You can see how this plan will allow our community to grow, as well as take relief off of the northern side of our 2 elementary schools that are above Highway 287, as well as give some stability to some of the zones that are really growing and becoming very tight. So the recommendation from your district advisory team, your parent committee, and the stakeholders overwhelmingly has been that 2B would be the one that they can feel most confident in. As we look toward the information that gives us the forecast report, you can see that it keeps everyone out of the functional capacity until 2019, when Felty Elementary would then move into that area, but that is still greatly below even their current enrollment right now of close to 650 students. And then as we look at the other very important component of rezoning that has been a topic for many is the equity and the breakout for each school district, for each school within our district. So if you look in this last column, it gives you your percent of economically disadvantaged students. We still are aggressively working to keep our campuses as equitable as possible, but knowing that in order for us to provide neighborhood schools, and for us to, which is shown to be very important to our community, this would be the layout for Plan 2B. Board, can I address any questions related to this plan for you?
Thank you, Ms. Bell. I would like to make a comment before you move on to junior high here in a second. Again, looking at our demographer reports, Waxahachie is the 18th fastest growing district in the Metroplex. As we put out a survey to community members and to parents, the one thing that came back, and it was even a surprise to me, was this concept of neighborhood schools. When we had our second community forum, and I see several of the parents here tonight, the theme that came back to us over and over again, and one reason we moved to Elementary Plan 2B, is people that live out in neighborhoods like the Arbors or in Buffalo Ridge they have a hard time understanding why we're going above 287 and bringing them down into classrooms like Marvin or Wedgeworth or even a Northside. And it's not that they're not good schools, it's the fact that it's so far and they have a school that's located close to them. And so when we hear comments like, well, let's just, you know, fill up the current high school with elementary kids or the current NGA center with elementary kids, what we're continuing to do is reach out and grab these neighborhoods that are located close to schools like Shackelford and Felty, and we're continuing to ask them to drive by or drive away from their neighborhood schools where the kids could quite frankly just walk to school and go to these other schools just so we can fill a seat. When we don't have to do that, we can offer a better quality facility for our kids. And so we will recommend Elementary Plan 2B for you tonight because we think it is the most fundamentally sound plan. In addition to that, we're really trying to start the concept of locking in zones. We want to make sure that as the district grows and we begin to rezone, we're not messing with future zones for Wedgeworth, for Dunaway, for Clift. That's something that's very important to us. We know that we have 1,500 homes scheduled to go into North Grove. We know that located in Garden Valley, as they look at Garden Valley East, there will be an additional about 480 homes going in. So Waxahachie's growing. A lot of homes are going in. We know we're going to have elementary schools north of 287. We know it takes a 2-year build out, so even if we were to stay complacent right now, we know that in 2 years we're still going to be saturated with kids because that school's not going to go up the day voters approve a bond. So Elementary 2B will be the plan. It puts us where certainly we can keep the zones intact for 2 years, and then at that time the growth that has come to Northside or North Grove rather will be able to be absorbed by that elementary school. So you want to go ahead?
In addition, as in approving or considering approval of Plan 2B, the overwhelming conclusion for junior highs was that feeder schools would be a better alternative than zones for our school district. So to just clearly explain those two, we had an opportunity to zone our school district into 3 zones, which potentially provides an opportunity for an elementary school to be divided. So it could set up the situation where a school such as Wedgeworth could possibly be divided in half or even in an equal proportion, but you would not know that all the students were going to the same campus. For staff members in our district, that was a critical decision for them. They like the security of knowing that all of their babies on that one campus are filtering into the next junior high. It allows for them to then make a smooth transition for students as they are going from elementary school into junior high, those that require special programming and those that don't. They like knowing that their entire community of students get to move together. So the feeder school that you can see on the screen would divide our campuses into 3 zones. So the blue area would be Coleman, the pink would be Findlay, and the greenish color would be Howard. And so you can see that we have worked very hard to make those campuses as equitable as possible, including trying to provide and accommodate a space that makes our junior highs a more measurable and easier number of students. Currently, with 1,000 students on a campus, as a junior high principal, my goal was to know every single child, to know every single situation they got into, and to be able to give my mama's eye to each one of them. That's very difficult to do when you have 1,000 students on a campus. And our goal with having 3 campuses is to get those campuses to a size where we know all of our students, where they feel like they belong to a school family and they're a community of learners together. And so by going with these 3 campuses, that will get us there. So Mr. Robinson, will you scroll down to the numbers a little bit? So as you can see on the numbers here, with this plan, this is with the adjustments to 2B and adjusting the neighborhoods as we stated for the elementary schools. You can see that it gets our functional capacity greatly, gives us plenty of time all the way out to 2024 before even Coleman Junior High would begin to hit its functional capacity level. We would be starting with Howard Junior High up just a little bit above Findlay, but know that with the addition of North Grove hopefully on the horizon, we would be able to then add North Grove into Findlay Junior High without causing any extreme rezoning, because we would have space for them in that campus.
Yeah, and the capacity numbers do take into account that we are planning to remove all portable buildings in the district as well.
Can you scroll down one more? Another issue for our current campuses is there is an inequity between Howard and Findlay as far as funding is concerned related to title funding, which also relates to our economically disadvantaged numbers. So as you can see in this junior high plan, it gets all of our campuses back to eligibility level, and it would then give them that opportunity to have shared funding, which is something and provide for all of their students in those buildings. Any questions I can address related to junior highs at this time? Thank you. The next aspect of our rezoning allows us to look at school choice, which is a very important aspect of our community. We will still continue to offer our dual language academy, which is currently available to kindergarten students that are wanting to become bilingual and biliterate as a focus for their family. That is only open to students that are current residents of Waxahachie ISD. Our second option now, thankfully, will be Wildman STEAM Academy. That academy will be open to all students in elementary school that are residents of Waxahachie ISD. We currently have approximately 100 seats that will be available in that building. As you know, our long-term goal is that will be a 100% application-based campus as soon as we have space available by the opening up of our next building, so that we have plenty of room for all of our students. But currently, it does have an attendance zone, as you could see in Plan 2B. Another option we discussed at our most recent forum is the option for residential choice, where campuses that are under capacity and have space in specific classrooms, our residents would have the opportunity to apply for their child to attend that campus. So we know and are hearing from our community that they want to have more voice in where their children attend school, and we think that this is a very viable option and a way for us to utilize classroom space across the entire district. And then lastly, at this time, our school choice option for secondary is our amazing early college high school through global high school. We continue to keep that open to both residents and non-residents, and our goal this year is, as Ms. Moyer said, that freshman class was lower than we expected it to be or anticipated, and we want them to be strong and to continue to grow their population there. So those school choice options in WISD are supported through our rezoning plan.
So on the resident choice,
sorry.
Okay. On the resident choice, I'm sure there's some restrictions, such as, I'm going to assume they're going to have to provide their own transportation.
Yes, sir. Thank you. All of these options require that. So if you are making a school choice in Waxahachie ISD at this time, you are also committing to the fact that you will provide transportation to your student, including those that are applied and accepted into the STEAM Academy. Parents will have to provide transportation for their students there. All of them have an application process. The residential choice application process will come available after we get kids seated into schools and we know exactly what our availability is. But much like this year with our transfer process that you allowed for out-of-district transfers, some of those individuals didn't find out before school started, but I promise you they wanted to go here that badly. When they got that phone call that, hey, there is space after all, some of them did make the choice to come even at a late date.
And currently that number is set for transfers at below 80%.
Yes.
Thank you. I just wanted to.
Okay, right in partnership with rezoning is several local policies that have impacted and will continue to impact space on our campuses. We have received feedback on these from our parent advisory committee, which did consist of parents on any campus that would be impacted by the rezoning changes, as well as our district advisory committee and our campus leadership teams. And so the first policy we are looking at tonight is FD Local. This policy looks at our grandparent after-school care of a resident student. Currently, state law requires that as a district that we allow a grandparent who resides within our district, but their grandchild does not. If they are the caregiver for that child before and after school, by law, we have to allow them to enroll that child in our district. Our district practice has also been that we have allowed grandparents within a zoned campus to also select to bring their grandchild to that school, even if their child was already a resident in Waxahachie ISD. So in getting multiple feedback opportunities for this, The recommendation that has been proposed is that we alter our current policy to say that we continue to allow our grandparents this opportunity. We have some families that truly are in need of getting children picked up after school. I know that we've heard stories about grandparents that have 4 or 5 different children they pick up after school, but those children are zoned to 3 or 4 campuses, and how in the world would they pick them all up? Whereas the grandparent can then send them to the campus that's nearest to their school, they can then walk them home, and they're truly responsible for them. So the consensus has been to share with the board that we would like to alter the policy to state, as you can see in the highlighted area, a substantial amount of after-school care shall consist of at least 2 hours per school day for 5 days during the regular week. That would be provided by the grandparent. This would then be also enhanced by both the grandparent and the parent who are making this request, coming to the district office here to the administration building, meeting with our district director of campus and student services in order to go through this process of even applying. Currently, that responsibility lies on our principals and their front office staff, and we recognize that it's not always handled as we would like it to be, not on the part of our employees, but as just putting the policy into practice. This would then give us the opportunity to meet with each of these families and to fully ensure that this after-school care consisting of at least 2 hours per school day is provided. That also aligns to the state law.
So that's a new,
it would be
request that we're.
Let me clarify that.
And I think, hold on, I think that's a great thing. You're saying that the parent and the grandparent have to come together.
Yes.
To the administration building to fill out the paperwork to apply for the status.
Yes,
correct?
sir. Yes.
Okay.
And I want to update something. First of all, let me clarify something. The 3 policies that you're looking at tonight, FD, FDA, and FDB local, are all current practices of the district. We're just asking you guys tonight to allow them to be put into policy along with rezoning. It just makes our job easier to be able to go back and cite policy. But these have been current practices of the district since well before any of us were in leadership roles. FD specifically, as Ms. Blaylock said, is a state law as it relates to out of district. We've always honored residents and taxpayers with the same benefits that we allow people who live out of district. I will say there is one change to this. On 198 of your board packet, you'll see the proposed text, but Ms. Blaylock was nice enough to put it on the screen where it says superintendent or designee. We're actually going to ask for a committee made up of our director of administrative and support services, the principal of the current zone, and the principal of the zone the student will be going to just to review every case to ensure that best practices upheld by the district. So we'll move forward with this policy. Again, think it right now it benefits about 32 kids in our district, so less than 0.5% of the kids actually take advantage of it. But it does go in line with our theme of allowing school choice and giving parents and grandparents who need this that option. You gonna move to FDA?
Okay, so under FDA local, this is our inter-district transfer request for children related to district employees. And so this one is under your admissions policy. So this one specifically is admitting students into, it's also where your transfer policy is also highlighted. So this allows for us our employees to bring their children in. For example, should they live in Midlothian, but they work here in our district, that they have the option to bring their children to the district. It currently states elementary school, and for the purpose of clarification, we wanted to add the areas you can see that are highlighted. So it will now read, a child of a district employee may transfer from the elementary school or junior high attendance zone in which the child lives to the elementary school attendance zone or junior high attendance zone of the parent's choice, provided that the parent is an employee of the district and space is available up to district capacity at the receiving campus. And just as an informational point for the board and the public, we have had times when we have had to close campuses. Even on the next policy we'll talk about for employees that live in Waxahachie, we have closed Felty Elementary before when it has exceeded capacity and we could not hold any more students there. If we were not rezoning, that would be the case for Felty and Shackelford next year, as well as possibly another campus or two. So we have limited this option, and so that way we could ensure that our resident students had space on those campuses. So that is the proposed request we would be asking to change on FDA local, to add junior high and to clearly state that it would happen when space is available for district capacity. This request already goes through the district administration building. The employees have to make this request through Dr. Glenn's office, and then Ms. Murphy and Mike Morgan monitor, and they're the ones that approve these requests. The second one that goes with that is FDB local. This one is an intra-district transfer. It relates to our employees being able to transfer their children or grandchildren within the district. Currently, it only cites a child, but we do have grandparents in our district that are responsible for their grandchild or have care for them. So we are proposing to add the word grandchild and to also add the junior high clarification and the up to district capacity, so that we have all of those policies aligned, that we continue to support our employees as they are working from the wee hours of the morning to the very late hours of the night. And for them to not have their children on their campus with them does cause a great hardship. If you can envision that many of these employees are at their campus at 7:30. So if in my own situation, when I was a teacher, I would have had to have left my boys at Shackelford at 7:15, and I would have picked them up probably from the YMCA at close to 6 o'clock, and then I would have taken them back to my campus because I typically worked late into the evening team planning. These policies allow us to support our employees, to give them an opportunity to have their children in their building with them and to help them be as successful as they can, so that they can give everything they have to all the precious children that are in their classroom. So it is a benefit to our employees. It is very important to them. As we took this topic around to the campuses, it was overwhelmingly, please share our heart that how important this is to us as employees and allowing us to do our job well. Please do not cause us to divide our attention between our campus where we teach and our campus where our children are going to school.
And I will say, just to clarify, that from the PowerPoint to page 198 of your board packet, FDA local and FDB local do include the child or grandchild of a district employee.
And then the last policy practice that is a discussion, it's not truly a policy, it's a practice in our district. It has wavered through different rezoning phases. It's the idea of whether or not we will allow students to grandfather within this next round of rezoning. It typically, I have 5th and 8th graders here because those are typically the students that it most greatly affects. In the past, we have had discussions, even with the last one, that the siblings of 5th and 8th graders down to 2nd grade in elementary school and including 6th and 7th and junior high were included. So as we went to campuses, to our parent committee and to our district advisory team asking, what are your thoughts on grandfathering? How do you feel about it? It was an overwhelming consensus that it does not help us to maintain the expected capacity numbers and effective class sizes. We've done all of this work with Templeton demographics, and we've worked very hard to try to get our campuses to a manageable size and our classrooms to a size where students can get the individual attention that they need. And so the recommendation from all 3 of those groups overwhelmingly was for us to not allow grandfathering as a district. Of course, board, that is your decision that you will be able to discuss tonight. I did want to note, though, that students that are receiving special services, such as if they are in a specialized program through special education or any other type of program that's only offered on a specific campus, each of their situations will be assessed, and we will make the best decision between the director of that special program, Mr. Morgan, and myself, as well as that campus administrator and family, about what is best for that student's placement.
Thank you, board. So tonight it'll be the recommendation of administration that you approve the 2018 rezoning plan 2B for the elementary and 2B feeder schools for the junior high level, as well as policy FD as amended, FDA, and FDB local.
Okay, board, you have that item before you. Any discussion?
I have just,
Sure, Dr. Langley.
the proposed text to those local policies, it said elementary or junior high. The second time it mentioned just elementary. Just clarify that the proposed text will have junior high twice.
Yes, sir, Dr. Langley, that should be included there, so it's very clear that you can choose and select a campus for elementary and or junior high.
Yeah. Yeah, and we can make that change. And one other policy change you need to make everyone aware of, on the junior high feeder pattern specifically, if you live within a half a mile of one of the junior high campuses, Coleman, Findlay, or Howard, you'll have the option to either choose your feeder school for the zone in which you live in, or you can choose to actually go to the school within the half-mile radius of that junior high, to allow kids that live close by, Findlay, for example, just to walk over to Findlay. There's no sense in asking them to go to
Is there
Howard.
somewhere we need to add, can we get someone to add that?
We'll just make a quick amendment to the plan,
So you said a half a mile?
half-a-mile radius.
But that is junior high only.
Junior high only.
Okay. Any, Mr. Alfier?
Yeah, this is the first time I've gone through rezoning as a community member that was plugged in, and certainly as a board member, I think most of us, that's the case. Did anybody enjoy the process? It was pretty brutal. So I was also a little frustrated in the process, and I've got 2 months left serving on the board, and so my tongue has slipped a little bit, so forgive me if I lose my filter. But the frustrating part of the whole rezoning process was several of the comments that were made on social media or here and there, but one of them referenced a particular school as being the school to attend. And that one kind of stuck with me. I made that note mentally and on paper, and I think one of the benefits that we have around this table and you guys as an administrative team is that we get overwhelmed with details on how well our schools are doing at every level and at every campus. And so I don't know that we do a good job as board members and maybe as administrative team of letting the community know that. I viewed those comments every time I read them as a slap in the face to our campus administrators at Marvin, at Clift, and at Dunaway, in particular, 3 specific comments that stuck with me. Because those guys are working their tails off every day on those campuses to make sure that that experience that those kids and families walk into their door with every school day, the same as every campus in our district. And I don't think our community knows that. And it's not their fault, I don't think. I think it's just an ignorance in the best form of that word. And I had this argument with Kate, my wife, who's about to be the principal at Wildman. I said, let's not send our kids to your school. And she looked at me very sternly, and that didn't go very far. But I said, and the parent committee that did this rezoning took a lot of heat for a comment that I made, was that why not let our teachers be the ones that set the example of sending their kids to whatever school that they zone? And I got shot down real quick by my wife, and I got shot down by a lot of teachers, and I understand why that policy is there, and I absolutely support that policy that we're about to vote on. But the point is that us as a district have to come to a place where it doesn't matter what school a child attends, that the confidence level that every parent has in this community is that they're going to walk out of there as a 5th grader, as an 8th grader, and as a 12th grader with the same education at every other campus in the district. And so for those principals that I mentioned, thank you for what you're doing. And every principal in our district, I'm not trying to slight anybody, but it's a perception issue. And reality becomes perception sometimes. And I think the goal of this rezoning all along was to provide better equity. That's what we tried to do. There were some weird lines drawn on those maps. But honestly, if I was a one-person vote, I would vote for that original plan that created equity on every one of those campuses. I'm not going to do it because I support the community, and I think this rezoning thing is a give and take. You give a little, you take a little. I think we gave a little more than I would have liked personally, but I think it's a pretty good compromise. But I think what I want the board, and certainly what I've taken away from it, and I said frustrating earlier, but a more positive word is the learning experience that I've taken away from it, is that I hope our community, and I'm about to be a parent of a kindergartner next year, is that it becomes less about what school my kid attends, or where I feel most comfortable with them going, or which school's makeup looks most like my family's, or which school my kids' friends go to, and more about what I as a parent can contribute to that school to make it the same experience at every other campus on the district. Thank you.
Anyone else gonna follow that up? Mr. Autry?
To answer your question, no, I didn't enjoy it. I don't think there is a perfect plan out there, but I think we listened and I think we got as close to it as we could to make as many people as we possibly could happy. And without a doubt, it doesn't matter what school you go to, education starts at home. It doesn't matter what school you go to, it starts at home. And that we can only provide what we can provide, but remember, it starts at home.
Thank you, Mr. Autry. Any other discussion or comments? I would like to thank the parent committee for all the work that you contributed through this process, the cabinet, Ms. Blaylock, for all that you contributed as well, Dr. Glenn, for your vision and for your direction as well, and to the board, because I know that it wasn't at times a pleasant experience, but as Mr. Authier said, I think it was a great experience to have under our belts. And so I echo those comments, and knowing that we weren't going to make everyone happy, and we understand that, and we understood that, but we're trying to do best for the district at the 50,000 foot level, and I've mentioned that several times. So before you, Dr. Glenn has read the item. At this time, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Fox. Second. Second by Mr. Authier. Any further discussion or questions for Ms. Blaylock or for any of the... All right, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Ms. Blaylock. Thank you for all your work.
Thank you, board. And I truly do want all of our stakeholders to know how much we appreciated their feedback. We wanted to hear it, no matter how it came. We're thankful that our community felt the need to step up and let us know their thoughts. But the committees that spent countless hours working on this, we're truly thankful for your time. So thank you.
Absolutely. And to echo the comments of Mr. Authier and Mr. Autry too, we are blessed with great teachers and great administrators on every campus, and really great parents and students throughout the community. So no matter where your child ends up, understand that they're in good hands, and we're going to do everything we can to give them the best education possible.
Absolutely. In the next phase of this, just so everyone knows, will be to begin, what does that plan look like in the next 5 months, so that when our students walk in the door on the first day of school that we're fixing to talk about, they feel comfortable and confident in their new home, should that happen for that family. So that's our next topic is our academic calendar for the 18.
Ms. Blaylock, can I
You sure may.
Ask you to take a seat? We're going to go out of order once again.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask Mr. Alvenshine to step to the podium. If it's okay with the board, we're going to go out of order. We're going to go to Human Resource A2. I know that security has been a high topic, and so we're going to go ahead and discuss that. So, Ms. Blaylock, if you'll have a seat.
And Eric Kyle's actually coming in to give the presentation.
Mr. Kyle, my bad, all right? Even, that'll work.
Yeah, it's up on here.
So, just so you know, trustees, item A2, discussion and possible action to expand the school resource officer program and authorize the administration to take any necessary action thereof. Yeah, and what we've asked Officer Kyle to do, as you know, he's the chief of security, and for those in the audience who don't know, he is our chief security officer here. He works hand in hand with our school resource officer. We've asked him to give really an update to the board. As you know, Governor Abbott has asked all school boards to review their safety and security procedures and to look at ways to improve school safety and security across districts in the state of Texas. So that's what we're doing tonight. And so we'll begin tonight by asking Officer Kyle to give you an update on the safety and security of WISD and where we're at today. And then from there, we'll have 3 action items that Mr. Avenshine will present A2 through 4, and we'll allow the board to have dialogue on all of those items at that time. But we'll begin with Officer Kyle.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate this opportunity. What we have for tonight's how we're keeping kids safe. Laws in place that are required for us to do an audit every 3 years, and we did that last year, and we came away with a lot of good things that we were needing to look at and add. Some of those things are in this PowerPoint. Over the years, and it's probably been the last 6-7 years, we've done a lot of different things. We secured all the main entrances to the high school. We put in secure vestibules when Tom Collins was in place, to where people that are coming up to the building have to be badged in to get into the front office, to add that extra layer of security. And then from that point, they're checked in through the Raptor system. The front office staff, make sure where they're supposed to go and they get a badge. So that's how they're let into the building at that point. Also, I think in 2014, with the change in the TRE, it allowed us to hire 8 more officers, which gave us a security officer on every campus. So right now, there are 17 of us that are working for the district. When I came to the district in 2006, there was 3 of us. So we've grown quite a bit since then, and we're able to do a lot better coverage of all of our campuses. We also have security officers at all our sporting events that are on WISD property. We also send some out of town, usually with the basketball team, football teams, some of our kind of higher priority games that we have in place. We have been out of town for baseball and some other events as well, but usually when we go out of town, it's for basketball and football games and events. We also cover other events around the district and kind of have grown those through over the years. We cover junior high dances, shows at the FAC. We cover the Charmers auditions. We cover prom. We cover graduation. Right now, my guys have put in over 3,000 off-duty hours. So that's hours after their normal 8 to 4 hours that they're here in the district to cover those kind of events, and we're not even through with the end of the year. Next slide, we work with local law enforcement, and we have been for years. We have a great working relationship with the Waxahachie Police Department. The school resource officer, which is new this year, Officer Lewis, that's outside, doing a great job. It makes it much easier to have him on campus to help out a lot of things without having to call the city to come send somebody off the street and go over those things. He's been visiting all the campuses and really doing a great job for us. We also have off-duty officers that we use to help cover large events. Again, some basketball games, and they're working there every Friday night on our home football games just to help give us coverage. We also have ED officers that have recently started coming and helping out in our drills, just so if we have a real event, they're familiar with the building. They come by quite a bit to do walkthroughs just to check on us and see how we're doing. We also work with the fire department and the fire marshal on our fire evacuation plans and drills, as well as our severe weather drills and responses. So with the new schools and stuff coming into play and kind of readjusting those, I'll be doing a lot of walking with Dennis Gracilius to make sure that those plans are in place and that the fire department feels that the areas that we're looking at to put kids when we have severe weather, or the directions we're looking at our fire drill routes, are safe for the kids and the staff to be able to do and take care of appropriately. What we're looking for in the future, we're currently upgrading 3 campuses. It'll be the new Coleman, the new Global High School, Wedgeworth, and Shackelford. The process has already started. They're running cable and they're installing new IP cameras in those buildings. Most of the ones that we have in those buildings are several years old. Some of them were here before I started 11 years ago. So we're upgrading that system, and we're adding additional cameras to the campuses that need it to give us better coverage of the drop-off areas, the outside areas, the playground areas, and the inside of the building. We're also upgrading our lighting. We're going to LED throughout the district. I think over the break they redid all the lights at the high school student parking lot stadium area to give us better coverage for those events and things that take place in the evenings, and so make sure that our parking lots are covered and well lit for the safety of the spectators and the people that are leaving late in the evening. We're also looking at adding additional lighting for some of our elementary campuses that have old lights that are in place, or we may need to put some new poles to give a little bit better coverage for those events that they have throughout the year that end well after dark. I believe we're also looking at, maybe on the agenda, looking at expanding the SRO program with the new campuses coming on. I'm looking forward to expanding our current security department to add coverage for those new campuses and be able to move some officers around. And then we also continue to evaluate our campuses and emergency operation plans to further strengthen and everything for our district, safety and security wise. Again, we use those audits to help go through what we have in place to make sure, one, that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing according to what's set aside by that, but also look for weaknesses that we may have in it and things that we may need to add, and then come back to y'all for to change up. So enjoy the opportunity. Have any questions or concerns? Or
Officer Kyle, how often do your security officers go into training or continue their training? Once a year or?
Yeah, we do training at the beginning of the year, and we do little things throughout the year. They're all CPR certified through the nurses at our campuses, so they keep up with that. But then we do our emergency operations training and stuff with them every year, along with the staff of every campus.
Any questions for Officer Kyle?
No, I just, I do want to commend Officer Kyle. I know that every three years that our district does do participate in the state mandated security audit, and every year they have come out really with a quality review and areas in which we can improve, and I think Officer Kyle and his staff do a good job of implementing those security measures. I will tell you that in addition to that state mandated audit, that our Director of Administrative and Student Services, Mike Morgan, today reached out to National School Shield and has requested that they come in and do a safety audit and a review of our procedures as well. This is actually an organization that is funded by the NRA that provides grants to schools that actually, after they come in and they look at our procedures and protocols, they're willing to help us obtain grants and monies to further enhance our security measures. So that's going to be something that we're going to move forward with as well. I'll also remind the board, before Mr. Abenshine actually steps up to the podium, that under state law, we can go to closed session to deliberate security devices, personnel deployment, and security audits. Obviously, when we're talking safety and security of kids, not everything we discuss do we want to be open to the public. Again, just for the safety of our students, there are some things that we need to keep behind closed doors, but certainly the discussion items of a school resource officer, campus lighting, surveillance equipment, and potentially a guardian or marshal plan. We can begin discussions while the community is here, and then we can go into closed session, and if we want to come out and take action on any of those items or take action right here in open session, we can do that. It is the pleasure of the board. So at this time, I'll turn it over to our Deputy Superintendent, Mr. Abenshine.
And truly, Dr. Glenn, thank you for those comments, and I'm here to answer questions too, because I am also thankful to have Captain Kyle direct our district security. One of the things that has been a topic of concern and a question raised over and over again is we discuss the arming of our security. Level 3 security officers. There are 1,200 school districts, as Dr. Glenn said in the beginning. 1,200 school districts across the state of Texas. Every school district in the state of Texas has been asked by the governor and asked by the Commissioner of Education to have this discussion tonight. So during the month of March, some in April, the districts are asked to be discussing security. There's not a one-size-fits-all, and there's not an answer for each district. It's a local decision for each district, but a lot of districts are trying to come up with, well, what is the reasonable ability to arm security. The Marshall Plan is one of those plans. That's essentially a gun in a lockbox that only those that you authorize have access to, and that is specific authority granted. 37.0811 of the Texas Education Code is the Marshall Plan. Guardian Plan is something that was already in place under Texas Penal Code, Chapter 46, but very specifically the security guard that just would have a gun on the hip, much like a commissioned peace officer. Private schools, universities have the ability to do this. Under present law, there is no present authority granting school districts the opportunity to have that provision. And quite specifically, 37.081A says that if a school district employs an individual as a security personnel, that individual must be a commissioned peace officer in order for the school district to authorize that individual to carry a weapon. So that's specifically stated under the Education Code. That is something that as a district, we're willing to talk to our legislator about a potential change, not just for this district, but other rural districts, to have the opportunity to have the same thing that, say, SAGU in our own community has the opportunity to have, and that's the security guard that has 80 hours of training, that level 3 training that Department of Public Safety authorizes. But we've asked that question. I mean, one, you have it in state law, but then two, we've gone to DPS and said, hey,
is there a way outside of this, or is this just controlling? And they said, we don't have the authority to then authorize for you a security force that's armed. And so that's not something that we have the opportunity to bring to you. It's a security force with guns on the hip, unless you did a police department or have a commissioned peace officer. So that's why we presently have the agreement with the Waxahachie Police Department. We are in their jurisdiction, and they protect and serve within their jurisdiction. We made the formal agreement at the beginning of the year to have a SRO officer assigned to Waxahachie ISD, and we have the capacity to expand that with the Waxahachie Police Department. I'll give again kudos to Eric Kyle and specifically reference the fact that this month, the week before spring break, we had a drill at the Waxahachie High School at a time and a date known only to the Waxahachie Police Department. The campus did not know the drill was coming. They didn't have the opportunity to pre-plan. But the PD came and did an active shooter drill. And so far, everything that we've heard from the police department, we will get more thorough response from them as we work together to make sure that we're doing everything we're supposed to do. But the drill went very well. And our administrators, our teachers, and our students did exactly as Waxahachie Police Department would want them to do had a real threat been in place. So we're pleased, but we want to continue to do more. And we know that we've got a good relationship and a growing relationship with Waxahachie Police Department. But if there are no questions, then I will let y'all, Mr. Fox.
How many more SROs or is the police department able to let us have?
It comes down to the district's request funding. Ultimately, what Chief Goolsby has told me is that if the district was able to make a request today, March, for an additional SRO officer, he's confident that by August he would have one available and trained and ready for the beginning of school next year.
I think that's one of the, as far as the SRO program is the availability of someone already going through the police academy and preparing, right? So,
correct. There'd be a commissioned peace officer that they'd be able to identify and train in the 6 months between now and the start of school, 5 months between now and start of school. Also keep in mind that PD is constantly looking for highly qualified officers too, and certainly that is a challenge for them as well. So we want to give them as much notice as we possibly can, because at the same time we're looking to fill a need in the school district, they're looking to fill a need out on the streets for highly qualified officers. Likely what Chief Goolsby has done in the past, and what I assume he would do in the future, is he would give us a veteran officer, and then he would go hire a replacement for that veteran officer.
I have a simple question.
Mr. Autry? Yes, sir.
What do the principals want? It's ultimately their campus. What are their opinions?
We have a district committee, a crisis management team. In fact, it was one of our principals that specifically requested that we plan a drill, that we have a drill at a time where she didn't know it was going to occur, because she told us point blank, I can plan the best drill, I always do, I make sure it runs perfect. I talked to my assistant principal, I talked to my counselor, we plan it to a T, because we're educators, we like getting A's, we like being prepared to give ourselves A's, but please give us the opportunity to have a drill at a time we don't know it's coming, so we actually know if we're fully prepared. And so that's one thing that we asked PD to do for us, and they've done for us, and begin to phase into schools. We notified parents that was going to happen, so that there wasn't alarm or concern when police arrived at campus, that there was already an understanding, although we still then receive those calls when those happen. I will say there's not even a unanimous answer from the campus principals as for the exact method. We've been asked to continue in regard to the vestibule improvements, to make sure that we continue to improve locks and the entry process, make sure that's good in terms of the Raptor system. We've been asked, and we will likely implement before the beginning of next school year. We currently check everybody in to the front, check everybody's ID through the front, but we don't actually take the ID. And so one recommendation we've received from principals is that we actually take the ID, and that the the visitor who has been checked into our system must come back to the front office to receive their ID to leave, so that you know then when you have the visitor that's come, and then you know the time that they've left.
I mean,
we don't presently
more
do that.
specifically, are they preferring the Marshall Plan, the Guardian Plan, more SROs?
Yeah, and that's a good question. I'll tell you that I haven't talked to every principal, but as I talk to just kind of a wide range of not only teachers in our district and security officers in our district, paraprofessionals, administrators in our district, you have a lot of different opinions, and there are opinions from, I don't want to see more guns on campus, to we need to be arming a lot of our teachers. What I can tell you is that specifically, the one thing that all educators that I visited with agree on is that a decision doesn't need to be made out of emotion. And obviously, anytime there's been a school shooting in our country, it's an emotional time for everybody involved. And they also say that a decision doesn't need to be made because people are fear-mongering, trying to scare someone into making a decision. It needs to be thoughtful, and it needs to be about what's best for kids. So as we look at the 3 action items tonight, the first action item is the discussion and possible action to expand our SRO program. We've just had huge success with this program. Obviously, it would only be one more officer at this time, just because that really fits the needs of the budget as we look into our 18-19 school year. But that's an officer that can actually move campus to campus and work with the 17 security officers that we have in place. We do have plans to continue to work through our local legislatures, John Ray specifically, to see if there's the possibility of the state changing the law to allow districts like Waxahachie to implement a level 3 security program, very similar to what SAGU has. They have level 3 security officers. We actually do have several officers that are TCOL certified. In addition to the SRO recommendation we'll have for you tonight, we do want to ask that we increase security lighting and surveillance equipment across the district. Mr. Abenshine can speak to that in a second. And then simply allow us not necessarily to take action on a Guardian or Marshall Plan tonight, but allow us to specifically get you guys the information so that you can make an informed decision before we add a firearm to any of our campuses. And so we'd like to spend a little time. Several schools in the county are already taking advantage of the Guardian Plan. We can visit with those schools. We could put together a committee, but certainly there would be no issue with us actually allowing some of our teachers, which some of them are actually certified police officers that are in the classroom right now, and it would make sense. And I don't want to get into too much detail of who would carry, but the opportunity does exist for us to allow that in a limited measure.
Thank you, Dr. Glenn. I specifically like the SRO program because we can continue to build on that, whether you add 1 a year or 2 a year or whatever. Second of all, I like the rapport that the SRO officer, such as Officer Lewis, builds with our students. And after having a lot of discussion on this topic, I know that when something happens in the school and the officers from outside have to come in to respond, they don't know the student from Adam. And they may have just come off a domestic call and blood's rushing or whatever. They're professionals, and I get it, but still, with that SRO officer there, they can diffuse the situation because why? They've built rapport with the students in that building or across the district. And so I'm in favor of the SR program, that we continue to build on that. So with that said, I'll move that we take action to add 1 SRO officer to our program and authorize administration to take necessary action thereof. Yeah, you can. Hold on for a second. Mr. Authier, second. Now, Mr. Fox.
That's why I asked the questions, Lee, about, obviously we need more. I mean, it's common sense. We've got a brand new high school that we're all gonna go to next year, and it's big, and that's gonna take some people to be there, and then we're gonna have the other schools covered as well, just as we do now. And I like You know, originally, you know, I've been on this for a long, long time, and I wanted a school police department. And we went to the SHAC committee, we came back with the SHAC committee, and you know, we voted 60-0 one night. You was there, you know, one afternoon. And so this has been something that is instead of, but it is working right now. So I'm fine. But we're going to have to increase. I mean, there's no way you cannot increase when you've got more and more kids. You know, we talk to the community all the time about how many more and more kids we've got. And we talk, now we're building this huge high school that's going to require security. So we have to. So like I said a while ago, how many can we get? I mean, because, and what is the number? I don't know. But we definitely need several more, or we're going to need. You know, I guess if we have to just go with one now, can we go with 2 more? Can we go with 3 more? I mean, I don't know. But we're in the right direction, but we need that badly. And then the deal that you said with Sagu, those guys that are carrying the guns, and how big a deal is that to get that done? And what is fast? You know, I know we don't want to respond because something happened here, we want to respond here. But just like the gentleman said earlier tonight, there's some bad people in the world. And we got the most important thing we can do is to protect those kids that we've got in our classroom. That's the most important thing. Because parents send their kids to school and they send little Sally and Johnny to school and they think they're going to be safe. And we can't control that. If we had 50 police officers, they still might not be safe that day. But we got to try our best. And that's I think that's our job, to try our dead level best to make sure that every kid that comes through those doors is as safe as we can make.
Thank you, Mr. Fox.
And I appreciate Mr. President's motion and the second.
I'm definitely in favor of adding SRO. If we sit around and wait on the Texas legislature, we all may be dead by the time they pass something. So I think we need to look at implementing more SROs in addition to a combination with the Guardian or the Marshall Plan. And I mean, we're adding 2 new campuses next year and 1 SRO. So if you look at it from a SRO versus a campus, we're going backwards. I don't want to go backwards. We'll go forward. So.
I have a question for you too. When I started on the ESD 6 board, we changed how some of that worked. We started staffing with paid firemen. They were not employed solely by ESD 6. We don't even have any employees at that time. They became 1099 employees, but they were certified firemen. We had no problem filling those spots. I've actually thought about calling Tommy Hamilton, who's still on that board, and see how it's working. Is there some way we could potentially use an interchange like that, where certified police officers could fill security type roles as needed? Because I know when we did that with the fire department, they already had all the certifications that they have to have involved, and there's also it also spread the liability. Not going to get into the legal aspects of that tonight, but it didn't require a lot of stuff for us to do from a liability standpoint.
A lot of that authority is going to come from the Guardian Plan as we continue to explore, and that's that authority that existed before the Marshall Plan ever did. It's Chapter 46 of the Penal Code that gives schools that right then to designate individuals that can carry. Those would be concealed carry. As it relates to police departments, the method that police departments have adopted throughout the state is via the SRO program. So to get that police department to authorize its officers, then you make the agreement. It's an interlocal agreement we're making with the Waxahachie Police Department to provide those SROs.
We had firemen come from multiple different municipalities that came, and I just want, a lot of those guys want an off-duty job. They want something else to do, and they're certified and they know what's going on.
So I think, yeah, to expand on what Mr. Schoolfield is saying, much like we get a police officer to fill a slot at a sporting event, have them fill slots rather than hire a full-time SRO have so many slots every school day, and then allow the sheriff's department, the NSPD, the Midlothian PD, Dallas PD, if they want to come
Those
earn extra money.
off-duty hours.
Off-duty officers,
It
but they
works
come.
really good at
Yeah,
the
they
fire
come and they serve as security officers on the campus. So maybe doesn't necessarily require the long-term financial commitment that we're talking about, but still serves the purpose of having a
The rate of
licensed
pay
police
per
officer.
hour is generally a pretty substantial rate. We do utilize that for plenty of our school activities.
And also, just as we're in discussion, probably a good thing, Ms. Blaylock, if you could maybe get Ms. Sierra, she's been great about putting out surveys. Perhaps we could put out, before the board ever takes action on the Guardian or Marshal Plan, put out a staff and parent survey, get some feedback from our teachers and from our parents on what they would like to see in the schools as well.
And currently, didn't you say that according to Chief Goolsby, only one would be available this year right now?
That is correct. That's what, at least in the form of what we've requested and what would be available to us, is that this is plenty of time for him to identify an additional officer that could serve us. And then I appreciate the tenor of Mr. Autry's request, absolutely. I wouldn't agree that it's going backwards. As a district, we have the one SRO, and he is assigned throughout the district, but generally, more often than not, is going to be at the high school. That's been the experience this year. During passing periods is always at the high school, while the high school, which is on block schedule, has class period. He's been making rotations to the other secondary campuses, to the elementary. This doubles that for us. And so to have, one officer for 806,000 students to now 2 officers for those students, so that Officer Lewis can stay at the high school, and then our other officer can always be on rotation. The secondary campuses then become the focal point. Our elementary campuses, when we've been on campus talking to our elementary teachers, our elementary staff, there's generally a feeling of safety. But a concern and a desire for the district to address that as best as we possibly can, as prudently as possibly can. But this doubles that commitment from the Waxahachie Police Department.
Absolutely. And I think certainly it's something, as Mr. Fox mentioned and several board members have mentioned, it's a program that we can grow, and we'll continue through our positive working relationship with WPD to grow this program until hopefully we get to a point where we can have an SRO on every campus.
Yeah, and that's why I asked that. I mean, if I felt like 2 were available, I'd amend my motion and say 2. But I mean, we can only get what's available at this time for us. So.
And we can begin those talks with the PD.
Yeah, maybe we can begin those talks with the PD this year to say next year we would like to add
As early as we can. The earlier we decide, and as available as we have funds to do so, and we all agree that this is a primary focus of what we need to be funding. But the earlier we get to talk to the police department, the better they are to identify those that can then come serve with full training.
All right, so there's a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Number 3.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our cameras, we have been upgrading throughout the district. We appreciate the board's commitment to improve our cameras. What we know is that cameras help us catch bad guys once bad things happen. Lighting is a preventative. Lighting tends to help bad things from happening in the first place. And we've identified 4 campuses, specifically Dunaway. That was the first request we received, specifically early in the morning. And as we've set our clocks forward, we now have a little bit darker period of the day. It's dark at Dunaway as parents are dropping students off. Shackelford, which was built at the same time, has essentially the same lighting issues. So Dunaway and Shackelford, Clift, and Wedgeworth, we all know those 4 campuses need better lighting. It's been something that Mr. Mielek has been working on, but we would just ask specifically that the board then authorizes as we're going forward to make sure that remains a priority and something that we do this spring to prepare our campuses for the fall.
Okay, so before you have the possible action to increase security lighting and surveillance equipment on the designated campuses.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Authier, or who was that? Was that second by Mr. Autry? Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. At this time, I'm going to move that we go into closed session so we can discuss the Guardian and Marshall Plan, as well as all items under section 551.001 at set. I do have the time at 7:53. We are adjourned into closed session. Okay, the time is 9 o'clock. We will reconvene into open session, move into budget and finance. Mr. Colden.
That's long over pause. My apologies. Board, tonight I have one action item for your consideration and one update for you. At your stations tonight is the budget calendar for 18-19. You'll see it's essentially the same calendar that we've had in the last couple of years, except for everything starts in March instead of February. With the rezoning that was approved tonight, that'll really get kicking off all of our estimations of what campus enrollments will be, and therefore drive what their budget and their allocated allotments will be. So we'll really start going next week, I believe, next Monday, with budget meetings for campuses and departments, and kind of go from there. So, and then more updates for you in May and June as we have a better understanding of what that budget and what the revenues and resources are going to look like for the 18-19 school year. So that's the update. And then for your consideration, we did a recent RFP for E-rate funds. E-rate is a federal program by which we can get cost offset on technology. There's two categories, Category 1 and Category 2. Category 1 is for providing of technology services that should be interpreted as internet services. And so in Category 1, we can get an offset, and that offset for services is based on the free and reduced populations of our district. And so Category 1, we do like to have 2 internet service providers within the district at any point. In case one goes down, we have a redundant backup that's able to power all of the devices in our district, be that personal computers or portable devices. Really comes in handy when we're trying to do online testing and one service goes down. So you will see 2 contracts in there for Category 1. And then Category 2 will give us a per student amount to upgrade or to use on technical devices on campuses. And so Category 2, we're going to start a 4 campus per year rotation throughout the district to upgrade some of the old switches and routers and technology equipment that's providing the internet on our campuses. And so you'll see those 2 contracts in your board packet for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Colvin.
It wasn't me.
Okay, so you have before you Category 1 and 2 services. So for the 2018-2021 federal fiscal years.
Second.
Who motioned, I'm sorry?
Althea and Schoolfield.
Althea, seconded by Mr. Schoolfield. Any discussion or comments for Mr. Colden? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you, Mr. Colden. Now, Ms. Blaylock. Curriculum and Academics, B2.
Yes, sir. So we are a little bit delayed in getting our calendar approved this year, and the main consideration for that has been that we need to make sure that all of our buildings are on track with being ready for this exciting opening of August 2018. So I would like to visit with you tonight about the academic calendar considerations as we were moving into next school year, knowing that we have quite a few campuses to open. We are, of course, sticking with our commitment that professional development will be limited. As you know, that's my favorite domain. But we also, most importantly, want our classrooms to be ready. We want our students to have, and families to feel confident in the transition process to their new facilities. And this calendar is built with that in mind. And so as we're looking at the calendar considerations for this school year, we are still labeled a District of Innovation for 4 more years, which means that we can continue to start before the 4th Monday of August until that runs out and we are given the opportunity to reinstate that. So the calendar that we are looking at this year, both of them had a midweek start that has us starting 3 days earlier than last year. We started a full week earlier. This one's 3 days earlier with a midweek start that would allow our students and staff to adjust to their their new buildings. Much of the time, we try to be academically minded and instructional on day one, but much of that time is spent with our teachers and students getting acclimated and adjusted to their new classrooms, but this year it will include getting adjusted to new buildings. So this gives us 3 days to get our school year started and to establish routines. It also gives us as a district the opportunity over the weekend, if something should happen, that we can make some correction and changes, which I really like having that 3-day start, then a quick 2 days of reset if we need to. We wanted to allow a reasonable start date for our teachers to get moved into their classrooms. We've even had teachers in buildings that are not being impacted by the moves ask, will they be able to go to campuses and help schools get ready? I love that we are a village that help each other. So we want to make sure that that's available. We are also, so let me pull up the calendar for you. Sorry, 1 second. So as we're looking at the calendar, we presented 2 of them. Calendar A was the overwhelming favorite. It is currently at, I think, 71% with 510 responses for this calendar. This one has us starting, as you can see, at the beginning of August, where new teachers will return on August the 6th for their 3 days of training. We have included flex days. That was a favorite. It was difficult on the bookkeeping side and extremely frustrating for our paraprofessionals, but everyone liked the opportunity to have flex days. So we've corrected that issue by even denoting on the calendar that our paraprofessionals would start 3 days early. Therefore, their flex time would already be provided for them because their contract would start sooner. We have 3 professional development days established that are the pink in August, but it's easier to give back. So right now that's listed as 3, but we will only utilize what of that we have to. Some of the features of this calendar, and I know Dr. Glenn says I can talk about the calendar for hours, but homecoming's an important day. That is October the 26th. Christmas would look just like this year, which was very important to our staff. Everyone loved that. And as you look into the springtime, we would have an extended spring break, whereas calendar 2 gave a 4-day weekend at Easter. So I think those are the main features of calendar 8. At this time, I'll give it to you,
This
Mr.
is the calendar the staff voted
Yes, sir.
to recommend to the board.
Yes.
All right, so
Okay,
that'll be
so-
our recommendation tonight.
Okay, board, so you've heard the recommendation of the staff to consider and possible approve on 2018-2019 district calendar as presented. Moved by Mr. McCutcheon. Seconded by Mr. Fox. Any further discussion or questions for Ms. Blaylock? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Ms. Blaylock. Facilities and construction, Mr. Neely.
Talking about the calendar, it's right around the corner, guys. But my first item for action, possible action tonight is construction and consideration action to award interior modifications and fencing for the Wildman building to J&M Construction Solutions and authorize the superintendent to negotiate. We're doing, with the construction that we'll be doing with the interior of Wildman, we'll be adding a couple of walls to add classrooms where they have pretty large open computer labs. The bathrooms facilities in the kindergarten wing, which is what I call the old science wing, which is kind of has a lot of the stuff over there to the west. We'll be adding better bathroom facilities, creating an art room in the locker room, also opening up some space, and that's in the female locker room. In the male locker room, opening up some space for some possible specials and SPED in the future, and then reconfiguring space throughout the library and administration area. We would also like, that was for amount of $129,600 for those modifications to Wallman. They also submitted a bid for the fencing, which would essentially enclose what I'm going to call the north yard. There used to be an old basketball court. It goes up to Ross, I believe, over to Gibson. I'm sorry?
Tennis court, wasn't it?
The old tennis court.
Yeah, the old tennis court. And that was for approximately $18,000. And that J&M Construction Services applied for both of those. We'd like to go ahead and award it to those guys. I checked all the references they check out. They've done plenty of work for Coppell ISD, City of Coppell, as well as some work with Gallagher's with that.
When will they begin construction on the Wildman Playground?
On the Longman Playground, we talked today, see Ms. Alfier here. We talked today about them. We pulled the colors on the posts and the shade structures. So I would think middle of May, end of May, start beginning that. You know, we don't want to start it too early. Excuse me, we don't want to start it too early, just for fear of.
High school kids would have fun playing on it.
They would. That's the fear, is that they would have fun playing on that. But we would get that fence up, and you know, at the last meeting, the school board approved painting, so we'll start painting the gym at Global here in the next couple weeks, I think. So just to get a head start and get ready for this. So with that, I'll answer any questions about those modifications or the fencing at Wallman.
Okay, so board, you have before you the consideration of action to award interior modifications and fencing for Wildman to J&M Construction Solutions and authorize superintendent to negotiate and execute all necessary documents thereof.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Autry, second by Mr. Fox. Any further discussion or questions for Mr. Mealy? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Number 2.
Thank you, board. You know, one of the priorities that the board has brought to us is the beautification of several of the campuses within WISD. One of the things that we've gone out and gotten bids on is adding trees to the north side practice area, to the north east of the building there along Brown and as well as along Ferris. So I got bids from the greenery, several other local nurseries about adding 52 trees along, just spaced out about 35 to 40 feet on center along Brown as well as Ferris, along with a bubbler system, irrigation system, and that comes with the greenery comes to about $30,800. They are the lowest bidder, and with that I'd answer any questions on that or seek your approval.
Is that part of the designated monies, the $3 million that's designated out of fund balance, or is that part of the campus?
Now, actually, we're going to take it out. We're going to take it out of our budget this year. He's asking the $3 million maintenance upgrades.
The answer is both.
Yeah.
Yes, it will come out of our budget as part of that $3 million for campus improvements and renovations.
I will tell you the driver for this is our meeting in January, where we talked about upgrading the landscaping on every campus. So that was the primary driver behind it.
Okay, trustees, so you have before you the consideration and action to accept the bid from the greenery for trees irrigation for Northside Elementary, authorize the superintendent to negotiate and execute all necessary documents thereof.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Alfier.
Second.
Second by Mr. Autry. Any further discussion or questions for Mr. Mealy? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you very much. Before you, I placed a green item that you've seen several times over the past 18-20 months about the Waxahachie High School construction update. Total contracted sum is a little over $117 million. We are at $90,882,000. That's 77% complete. If you go out there, it seems like we're a lot further along. A lot of this is the guts, the technology, things like that you can't really see, FF&E. But we're like I said last time, it's a snowball going downhill. I mean, it is impressive what they're doing. We're putting all the auditorium ceiling is complete, so they've taken down all the scaffolding in the Performing Arts Center, so that's open. They'll be installing the chairs in there as well as the lecture hall in the next month. We're dropping ceiling tiles down in the athletic area. All the other areas have ceiling tiles up at the educational areas. The wood paneling has started in the auditorium there. The wood paneling will begin in the next couple weeks in the area between the auditorium as well as the gym. Terrazzo will start going in the auditorium, the area in front of the auditorium and gym. The terrazzo is finishing up at the cafeteria level right now. So doing very well. The building's secure, so we've locked it up. Jeff was complaining to me today that some of their guys can't get in the IDF closets, so it is secure. Even they can't break into it. So, but that's a big milestone. So now we can really start installing the technology, the projectors, that stuff that walks off quite a bit. So we can get that stuff, start installing that stuff. The softball field's in place. It's gorgeous. I mean, I'll anybody, that's not necessarily locked up all the time, so I highly recommend you going out there. The outfield has Lady Indians in, you know, 10-foot tall, 50-foot wide letters. Just a gorgeous site out there. Indoor Activity Center has a turf installed, and they'll be going out to the sub-varsity field as well as the 2 other fields. Talked to Mr. Armstrong earlier this evening. We'll be getting their bandstand up there, I think, within the next month for them to practice. So all these preparations, everything's really coming together out there. It's really nice. Got a lot to do. The bleachers are in place. Sat in them today. They're very comfortable. Especially the seat backs, they're extremely comfortable. Lockers are going in, so it's just a lot of that detail work, a lot of that finite, that just real small work is going in now, but it's really making monumental changes. I mean, if you're not out there for 24 hours, you walk around the corner, it's like, oh my gosh, they've completed that. Those guys are just, I mean, they're a good. We've got a bunch of good contractors out there. So with that, I'll answer any questions concerning the construction update.
You mentioned Finley.
Yes, I'm sorry, thank you. And I meant to have Eric mention it. We have had a faulty door at Finley going into the vestibule. We repaired that this past week. We put a storefront door in Finley, as well as when you walked into their main entrance to the left, there was some old green carpet on the wall that they used as a tack board, and just, you know, just some of that old tile, the brick like tile. We put 2 charging stations in there, one at a bar height that will have stools under that, and then one at some ADA access that'll have lower heights, but charging stations in there. Mr. Costa said it was a hit today, so when we'll get some artists in there and recreate their F, you know, we're branding all the junior highs, we'll put their F on that wall in there, but it's they did a really good job. I mean, they did it. They were done by Friday. Got in there on Friday and we're out by Friday.
That was the work that was being conducted during spring break. I saw some people working.
Yeah, over spring break. Yep, in and out. So very nice.
All right. Any other questions or comments from Mr. Mealy? Okay. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Mealy. Move to 5A, Mr. Aldenshine, Human Resource Report. Easy there. Got excited.
Sorry about that, but I do appreciate the instructable technology from Jeff Robinson and the Technology Department. Mr. President, on 5A1, I do ask that the board approve the personnel report as recommended to you by your superintendent. It includes both the personnel report and the addendum. We have 5 teachers before you tonight. This is the beginning of our spring hiring process. We'll be hiring many more, but with the help of early notices from outgoing employees, we do have 4 teachers coming to the district. 1 teacher actually coming to the district mid-year, but I want to specifically highlight a promotion that we're bringing you tonight. One of our existing teachers, actually an interventionist at Clift Elementary, is our recommended applicant to you for the assistant principal position at Northside Elementary. It is my distinct pleasure to be able to recommend to you tonight Rachel Rector, who is absolutely vitally important to her current campus. We're robbing Clift Elementary. So there is someone who I do appreciate Ms. Coopan's honesty. She's not happy about this. Mrs. Burns, grinning like a Cheshire cat, very happy. I distinctly remember my first year in the district. We had a transition. We had stolen Clift's assistant principal, Mr. Lynch, to become Global High School's principal. Mrs. Coopan was out of pocket, and I remember walking by Mrs. Blaylock's office. It was some of her first days, really assuming the role of assistant superintendent of leadership, and saw Mrs. Rector in there crunching numbers and working out a report to make sure a report got done. I said, you know, I tried to know all the employees of the district, didn't know everybody at the time. I said, who is the lady in the t-shirt? And they're just with you on a Friday afternoon when we're not really on the job in the summertime. And it was Mrs. Rector, and I can't get that out of my head. And that's what we yearn to have, those employees that have that ownership, that can't let the job be undone, that go that extra mile. And I know that's what Mrs. Rector has done at Clift. I know that's what she will do at Northside. I'm incredibly excited to be the one to get to say to you, please approve this recommendation from your superintendent for Ms. Rector to immediately become the assistant principal at Northside as she continues to work with Cliff to make sure that their students do what's necessary to thrive on test scores. So, board, please approve the. Don't leave me empty-handed.
Can't not do it now.
Approve the employment of these 5 new teachers and Mrs. Rector.
Based on the glowing proposal, I move that we approve the personnel report as presented.
Dr. Langley, Mr. Fox, seconds. Any questions or comments from Mr. Almenshine? All right, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Congratulations, Ms. Rector.
And thank you, board. So on 5A4,
go ahead and take 5A, and then we'll jump back to 4.
Okay. So 5A, then 5. Discussion and first review of the TASB board policy update 110. That's just to you tonight to review, so it's in your board packet. Generally speaking, nothing controversial there. This is the end of the 2017 legislative session. It takes the Association of School Board time to analyze all the new laws, the effect of new laws, and you always get Texas Supreme Court opinions regarding laws, so they bring us recommended changes to legal local policy, and that's just what's there in 110, and I'll certainly answer any questions, and going forward, because we're not asking for action tonight, but going forward before the April board meeting, I'll certainly be available to answer questions. And then in regard to 5A4, that's potential action to continue to explore Guardian Plan and Marshall Plan.
And I do have a recommendation for trustees tonight. The recommendation is to authorize our administration to move forward with plans to implement the Guardian Plan for Waxahachie ISD and take all necessary action thereof. I'd like to remind the board that this will be a series of action items for you. The action tonight will specifically be on items discussed in closed session under Government Code 551.076.
So moved by Mr. Authier, second by Mr. Autry. Any discussion or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Almenshine. Superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. The first item we have is board policy on item DBE local. That is the nepotism policy as discussed by trustees at our February meeting. This will go into effect in the 18-19 school year, and it is on page 224 of your packet.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Fox.
Second.
Second by Mr. McCutcheon.
Schoolfield.
My left ear's. It was a tie. Any discussion or questions on DBE local? All right, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you, board. Looking at policy DEC local, the reimbursement of leave days for retirees. Let me just start by saying that we implemented that in 2014 for the 2015 school year. Before 2014 and 2013, it was an advantage only available to administrators in the district. After the passage of the TRE, we made it available to all staff. And certainly, it was meant as a goodwill gesture for all staff members. I think just in light of some of the issues that we've had regarding policy DEC local, we'll ask, first of all, that no action be taken tonight as we get some legal counsel on some questions that came up regarding it. But specifically, we would like the opportunity maybe to go back to the DAT committee and allow that advisory committee the opportunity to review it to make sure that we are getting the bang for our buck, I guess, that we want with our staff. Because at the end of the day, teachers that have been with the district 15 years, we want to make sure that they feel appreciated at the end of their career. And certainly the board is willing to give a generous stipend to make sure that they do. So maybe we push this back to the DAT committee, let them look at it, and also our staff. To get input from our staff on what would be the best way to implement this policy. Because at the end of the day, and I think I speak for all 7 of our trustees at the podium tonight, we want to show our teachers that they're valued and cared for, and a lot of people take advantage of it. I think between $20,000 and $30,000 over the last 3 years has been pushed out to staff through this policy, and so certainly it is the board's desire to make sure that all teachers are valued, especially those who have given 15 years of service to the district. So no action will be recommended tonight on item 2. Moving to item 3, we will ask that the board declare all portable buildings in WISD as surplus property. As promised by the 2014 LRPC, as the district moves forward with its desire to put all kids in attractive functional facilities. Part of that means removing older portable buildings that not only are they not safe, but they're really not best practice, and we certainly can do better and want to do better for our kids. So we'll ask you to declare those surplus property. This will be a series of declarations of surplus property as we get ready to purge some old furniture and materials from our buildings over the summer.
Okay, trustees, so you have before you the consideration and possible action to declare all portable buildings in Waxahachie ISD as surplus property.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Autry, second by Mr. Fox. Any questions for Dr. Glenn or anyone on staff? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you, board. That's all the action items we have for you tonight.
Board, I'd like to thank you for your time, all your commitment, as well as staff. Thank you for what you do on each side. And all those in the audience, thank you. All staff members that stayed, thank you. Thank you for all that you do each and every day. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Mr. Fox, second by Mr. McCutcheon. Time is 9:26. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. We are now stand adjourned.
Thank you, board.